afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Spartan Nation. We are back for Season 2 of Spartan Live. I am David McGee, and I'm joined by Joe D.I. here in Sacramento for the first stop in the Spartan U.S. National Series. This is the San Jose Super, and we're just giving you a little bit of information tonight to really whet the appetite for the event that's going to be here tomorrow. An 8 to 10 mile Spartan Super course that is going to test the mettle of a lot of great athletes out there. Joe, tell us a little bit about this U.S. National Series and what these athletes have in store for the year.
Yeah, David, like you said, we're here in Diablo Grande, about an hour and a half outside of San Jose, California, to kick off the Spartan National Series. This is one of 15 national series around the globe. There's 5 races in the United States that matter more than all the rest, and we're going to crown a champion of this series here in the United States.
Now, this series is not just, each of these races is not just about this series. It's about qualification for something bigger than that as well.
Right.
Take us through it.
So, yeah, these races here, they do pay more. They're more competitive. There's a larger field. These National Series races are also the only races where you can qualify for the World Championship. All right? So now you're at your Anytown USA race. That's going to qualify you for North American Regional Championships, which is being hosted in West Virginia. But the only way to get into Tahoe is a National Series race or a regional championship race. So there's a lot at stake here.
We have a ton of great athletes out here today. Not only, well, I guess what has been mentioned to me over my years, Rhea Stalling is in the house.
Yes.
You might be seeing her shortly. But we have a lot of big names. You're going to see Rhea Stalling. Yep. You're going to see Rhea Stalling.
Yep.
Alyssa Hawley, who came fresh off a big run out in Las Vegas. And then, of course, on the men's side, you're looking at Robert Killian, Ryan Woods, Ryan Kent, Angel Quintero, the young buck, VJ.
Yeah, this is, there's a lot of amazing athletes here, and this is the first race of the year. So a lot of people, they're going to keep a little bit in the tank. People are wondering what to expect. Maybe a couple athletes had a really, really hard season last year, and people have been seeing on social media and through other means that they've been training really smart, taking some time back. So I think there's a lot of people like Glenn Rass that could surprise a lot of people.
Glenn Rass is going to be a phenomenal race tomorrow. We're pretty sure. It's a good course for him, I do think. We have Steve Hammond, our very own Steve Hammond, over with Rhea Stalling right now. Steve, what does Rhea have to say for herself?
Well, a very good afternoon. I've just seen Rhea have a bit of a go on the multi rig. You're doing great.
Yeah.
You're looking great. You're looking really well. How have you prepared for this amazing event?
So last year at this race, it was a little bit of a rough go for me. So I've prepared by leaving Canada and training on some non-snowy trails, and I've actually been training in San Diego for 3 months. So just trying to get a bit more, not more running in than I did last year, but more intensity in earlier on in the year. So hopefully Rhea's pace this year doesn't make me want to throw up like it did last year.
Yes, we
so.
see.
Now this race is quite hilly. Have you got any tactics, or are you not going to be willing to share them for tomorrow?
I've definitely got some tactics. Obviously, Rhea and Alyssa are the two that I'm most worried about tomorrow. But I've got a race strategy, and it has a lot to do with those two girls. But no, I'm not going to share it.
Well, very best of luck for tomorrow. I think you're going to go and do great, and I'll look forward to chatting to you at the finishing line.
Thanks, guys. Excited to be here and see everyone. So good luck to everyone racing.
Awesome stuff. Back to you boys in the studio.
Thanks so much, Steve, and it's awesome to see Rhea Stalling back out there. And
yes, we are.
I have a prediction that she's going to have one killer race tomorrow. I think between her and Rhea Stalling, you're going to see a huge battle, but both of these ladies want to take advantage of Lindsay Webster's absence.
Right, and that's what this race is really about. There's a handful of athletes not here that are usually in that top 5 finishers, right?
Yeah.
So if you're planning on making a stake at this series and you know that Lindsay's not going to be here, Ryan's not going to be here, this is a race you need to be at, and you need to perform well to get that first place, second place, third place into your points for the series overall.
And the other thing to think about is for some of these athletes, this might be their premier race and event of the year. But for others, they've been racing all year long in basically like the kiddie pool of races. Like this is where things really step up. This is where you see the big boys and the big girls kind of rise to the top and the big challenges come out. There's not going to be any surprise names stealing podiums over here. This is not going to be what the earlier part of the season has been. This is the true championship season.
Right. And that's where athletes like Lee McCarthy come in, right? So she just had a great race in Las Vegas. She actually beat Alyssa Hawley. We don't know if Alyssa was running as hard as she could or if she was using it as a training run. But there's a few names that they're coming into the fold. You wonder if they're going to break the top 10, if they could break the top 5.
I would not be so quick to insult Lee McCarthy with a statement like that. I think she has proven herself to be a factor the last couple of years, and maybe she's really coming into her own now this year. So you're going to see that from a few different athletes. I think when you look at like a VJ Jones, there's a guy that's truly coming into his own the early part of the season, but can he really carry that when he gets up against the top-notch contenders on what turns out to be a little bit more of a rugged course?
Look at these hills. This is one of the most beautiful races we're going to see this year. This venue is spectacular, and you can see, although it's a beautiful venue, those hills are full.
They're merciless. I mean, I went out and I just ran the first half of the course before we popped in here to the booth. I literally changed my shirt and ran in here, and the first 4 miles of this course, after the first half mile, you have about 2 miles of straight, steep, undulating climbs. You climb up, basically it's to the area, and then you hug the ridge line, and you just hover on it, up and down, no flat. It's going to blow the field wide open. The inclines are very, very steep, and they're long. They're longer than you would to be. So this course is going to hurt people. Then when they come down into the festival area, they have about a mile and a half of very flat. There'll be large gaps where you're going to see these athletes really open up and start to drop some seriously fast mileage.
Yeah, and that's where this race strategy comes in that Faye was talking about. And yeah, keep it close to your chest. But for those that have run this venue before or trained a little bit on these hills, maybe they're going to have some of those insights on how to manage their intensity, right?
Yeah, and of course. And the other thing to keep in mind is the weather for tomorrow. Now, we're expecting a lot of rain.
Right.
And when you have a course that is already a little bit muddy and a little bit slick, and then you add a major rain factor to it, we're talking about something that's going to completely shake up the race. Climbing uphill is going to become tremendously difficult. Athletes will be slipping back. Descending is going to become treacherous as they struggle to find footing. And then it's going to be about, okay, who's most aggressive?
Right.
Who's willing to really take some risks out there?
Right, and that's what we've seen. We've seen big differences made during those high-risk scenarios where there's a large downhill and someone just deciding to go for it. You've also got a pretty tough multi-rig in this race. You've got a monkey bar. When it rains, there's a lot that can go wrong on those, and you can have a lot of surprises along the way.
And a lot of mistakes on obstacles, from wet obstacles. You see a lot of people out there on the course right now. This is the Spartan Open House. Why don't you tell everybody at home that hasn't participated in one of these exactly what's happening?
Yeah, so we open the race up, just the 7 or 8 obstacles that are closest to festival. We let people come out, practice them. We have SGX coaches stationed. We now have SGX coaches even guiding tours that are guided, so people can really start to get comfortable on some of these obstacles and understand what they're going to tackle the next day. I'll bet nice and fresh and nice clean clothes as opposed to at the end of a super. But
of course. Hey, can you guys take one guess at who taught my SGX certification course? It was this handsome man sitting right next to me right now. Can't believe that you actually taught me in a class. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's how we met, actually, and now we're sitting here in the booth together, which is pretty cool.
I think that was in Texas?
That was in Austin, Texas. That was the same week as the Glen Rose Beast in 2013, I think?
Yeah.
No, 2012.
Yeah.
2013.
Yeah, the SGX course, we teach trainers like yourself all the ins and outs of training people for this race, because just like these people at the open house are learning, there's a big difference between what a personal trainer learns and what they need to know to train somebody for this race. And so that's what our SGX program teaches them.
And it is very different. It is very unique. And remember, guys, that racing is not all just about obstacles. Truly preparing for racing is all about the conditioning. And you're going to see the athletes out there today are not necessarily the ones that are the absolute best, fastest getting through each obstacle. They're the most efficient, and they're the ones that can actually run before and after those obstacles.
Right. So, I mean, I guess that's a question, David. You're a gym owner. You train a lot of people for this race. What does it take to be a top Spartan?
I tell people, number one, master your running.
Right.
Be able to become a great runner on all terrains, on all levels, to be able to run hills, to be able to descend, to be able to do mountains, to be able to run when you're tired. Then you add those strength elements. your grip, your power, your endurance, your strength. Everything combines. You have to have no weaknesses. And that's what makes these some of the best athletes in the world, is that they're not just these scrawny little runners. They're these really strong, powerful, athletic runners.
Right.
And they have to be to get through all these obstacles that you have up there. We have 28 obstacles out there on the course tomorrow. Obstacles that would really challenge people's strength, their grip, their willpower. Things like twister, things like that sandbag carry from hell that will be out there tomorrow. You guys better tune in to watch that sandbag carry, because that was rough just to run without the sandbag. And the way down is as bad as the way up.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you were just saying, kind of being this jack of all trades, I'm just looking at Obstacle 9, the Yokohama tire flip. Do you remember in SoCal last year at Lake Elsinore is the first time we debuted that, and it stopped athletes in their tracks. I have never seen so many athletes doing burpees. So that's to your point. You need strength. You need to start with running. But at any time, we can toss a new obstacle or have a new twist on an old one that can really catch somebody by surprise if they're not keeping up with all those different elements.
You are definitely going to see some carnage over at the Yokohama tire flip and that whole strength obstacle gauntlet that we have coming up. But right now, as you can see, there's Steve Hammond down there with Alyssa Hawley, fresh off a victory over in Las Vegas. And Steve, what does Alyssa have to say for herself?
Absolutely, I am here with Alyssa. Alyssa, what a beautiful venue this is, and I know you're excited, right?
I'm so excited. Honestly, I was a little kind of nervous coming out here, trying to, it's just like you don't know how you're going to feel when you get there necessarily, because, there's so many different barriers and factors, and man, coming out here, I just was just like giddy. Like, that's the only way to put it. It's just like excited to be back out here, to see everybody, and it's going to be a great, great race.
So you had a good time in Las Vegas. You had a second in the Super and a first on the sprint. How did that go for you as preparation for this race?
I wanted to get out there and do a race just to kind of see where I was, and that's exactly what it was. And I just took whatever I felt that I needed to work on from that race, and I got a lot of good feedback from that. And so I just took that going into my training, knowing we had a very short window that I could focus on those little things and just use them to prepare for this one.
Good. So you got all the hills, and I know that you absolutely love it, and you run with such joy. Are you going to bring that tomorrow, and you're going to just run with such good spirits as you always do?
Yeah, that's honestly my plan, is just to run happy and run free. And, like in Born to Run, he's Caballa Blanco in the mountains, and that's what I'm going to channel, my inner Caballa Blanca tomorrow. It's just running for free and for fun, and just because this is what I love doing.
Well, you're one of the funnest races to watch, and good luck out there. You're going to be absolutely fantastic. It's beautiful right now.
Amazing.
Do you want rain or do you want sun?
The rain, I don't know. It kind of charges my spirit, to be honest. Like, when it's a rainy day at home, like, oh, sweet. Like, I'll go out and train in it, no problem. So I'm excited for that, and I think it can really, mentally shake a lot of the other competition. So, I'm okay with the rain. Bring it on if it's going to happen. So
Absolutely, and the course, if it does rain, is going to turn into a completely different beast. But back to you, boys.
Well, of course, first of all, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Alyssa, for joining us. But of course, the Seattle girl wants rain.
Right. I just love how she's talking about running, I like how she's saying she's having fun, because if you've ever seen her cross a finish line or in a close race, it looks like she's having anything but fun. She's one of the most intense athletes that we have in the sport.
And you saw that Alyssa, of course, finished 4th in our Women's U.S. Championship Series last year, which is now the U.S. National Series. Faye Stenning, I think for her, a very disappointing 5th. Expect her to come into this season much more conditioned. I watched her. She ran about a 17 flat 5K the other day, so she's definitely getting her running legs back early in the season.
Right.
No Nicole Miracle.
No Nicole here. And Alyssa, she did get a 4th place in the overall series last year, but she was tied with Nicole. However, we used that final race as a tiebreaker in instances like that. So with Nicole beating her in that final race, that's why Nicole was put up to 3rd place.
And of course, you won't see Lindsay Webster here. She's actually off doing a service trip in Nepal and India right now, where just the other day she was actually taking kids through a homemade obstacle course that she helped put together, which I thought was very, very cool. And it's nice to see her really do something outside of just herself.
Right. That's
a big thing, that the people in this community are very, very real. And of course, you have Rhea Stalling. She's going to be a major factor. You saw her emerge tremendously. Let's take a look back at last year's U.S. Championship Series run. Take a peek at how things went down and how these athletes emerged. Well, welcome back, everybody. And this, of course, the San Jose Super. This is the pre-show for the day before. And I'm David Magida, and I'm joined with Joe D.I. We are going to take you guys through a little bit of the men's field because there's a lot to talk about with the men that have come out today. I think you can't start this conversation without talking about the vet, Robert Killian, because he's in really good shape right now. He's been training mountains this early in the year for the first time in a long time because he didn't have to do Best Ranger.
Right.
And he is primed and ready for this course. I think it's a really good fit for his skill set.
Well, if you see, he is so lean right now, and he's a little bit, what's funny, he looks leaner than last year, but he's actually 5 pounds heavier. So he's been doing a lot more strength training.
He made a point of bragging to me about that, by the way. Yeah, he wants to be one of those bulk ponies.
Yeah, I think so. He definitely, you know, he's got a little bit more pec on him this year, and we'll see if that comes in handy in some of these strength obstacles.
I'd certainly think it will. And so, again, I think this race starts and stops with him, but there are a couple other big names in here. We're looking at Ryan Woods, Ryan Kent, Glenn Race, and VJ Jones. We got Ryan Kent down here with Steve Hammond right now. Hey, Steve, say hi to Ryan for us, please.
Absolutely, we'll say hi. Ryan Kent, one of the favorites for the race here. You have done this race before 2 years ago. How did that go for you?
I mean, it went well. I was able to get the victory. I had just come out of a really hard experience doing the selection, and I came into this a little tired, but I do remember this was not an easy course. It's a lot more challenging than what meets the eye.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've come down from altitude, and you live up in Mammoth. Yeah. How's the training gone for preparation for this first in the U.S. Series race?
I think it's been going as good as it can be. You know, we're still a little early in the year. It's only March right now. I will say I've taken a little bit different approach this season. I've kind of really put in a really solid strength phase into my training, which I haven't done in the past. I've kind of, gone into, running high mileage early in the year, and I'm kind of postponed everything back about a month or two from years past. But I'm really strong right now, so I'm going to use that to my advantage on the course tomorrow.
So what do you think, what skill is going to be necessary to do really well on this course? Is it the strength side, or is it going to be the hill climbing side, as you kind of know a little bit of insight from where the course goes from 2 years ago?
Well, you can't always, you always know the carries in an NBC race are always going to be elevated a little bit higher than normal races. So I'm going to use the carries as my opportunity to kind of, put my stamp on the race. But like I said, I do remember these hills around here are no joke, and they're steep. They're not too long. I mean, it's not like a steady Tahoe type climb, but they're steep, and probably going to be a lot of power hiking going on.
I think so. I am so excited for tomorrow. I think you're going to do great.
Thanks,
and
man.
I can't wait to commentate you, seeing you guys go past, mate.
Absolutely.
Well done.
Yeah.
Have an absolute blast out there. Really enjoy it. And guys, I think we're going to have a great showdown tomorrow. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve. And I think Ryan really hit the nail on the head. There is going to be a lot of power hiking on this course. It's going to take a toll on lower backs and calves really badly. And sometimes your conditioning is there, but the back and the calves and the hips just aren't ready for it. So you can see that Ryan settled in at 9th overall in the series last year.
But his best race was the last one. So like he said, he's trying to move his training about a month in the other direction. So his best race of the year last year was West Virginia. And I think he's trying to basically peak a little earlier this year to have a better shot at breaking that top 5.
And, of course, the only person who beat him that day was 3rd overall Robert Killian. But, look, you're going to be missing today a couple big faces, huge names. Hobie Call, the world #1, the world champion from the previous year, who won 4 races last year in this series. He's not in it. I mean, he's officially retired, so he claims, although he keeps running races.
He ran open.
Ryan Atkins not participating in this race tomorrow either. So your top 2 men aren't going to be here. You know Killian is licking his chops, but I think some of these other guys like Ryan Woodsy, Mr. Woods, really excited to get out there on this course because it also fits his skill set very well.
This is a huge race for Ryan Woods and Glenn Rass. This is their opportunity to get a top podium into their scoring for the overall series. So there's more on the line for those two than I think almost anybody else.
And Glenn Race, the big thing for him is he was consistent all year last year. And previous years, he'd pop a big race and then he would have a blow up and it would be a disaster. He was solid all year last year, and it was due to really high mileage that he put in at the beginning of the year. He was so consistent. Let's take a look back at last year's U.S. Championship Series. Take a peek at how these battles went down. Well, first and foremost, Emerald City Open, and you saw that one man led the day and another man stole the day, because Hobie Call's fall cost him dearly. Robert Killian's spear throw cost him dearly. And just like the previous year, Ryan Atkins got to steal a win from a missed spear throw.
Right.
Next week, or next event, we head over into Monterey. Now, this course is notoriously fast. It's a rough bucket carry, but huge, quick downhills.
Well, that's one of the races where we see Hunter McIntyre on the screen, where he's just always willing to put it all on the line in that race. There are so many of these really treacherous downhills that people navigate carefully, and Hunter is just notorious for bombing down those hills.
Well, and he and Robert Killian again made that race, and Hobie snatched it from him right at the end last year.
Right.
Now we're looking at Palmerton, and this is a race that Hobie Call really put his stamp on the season. We said, well, maybe this guy's unbeatable, because this guy came out and easily demolished the field. And then he did the exact same thing the next week or the next event in Asheville.
Right.
He walked over to a championship victory. He had this thing wrapped up before the Ascent even began, the final race of the season, at 40 years old. And of course, this was the day that everything, the stars aligned for both of these guys, Robert Killian and Ryan Kent, who you'll see both of them tomorrow. Killian blew the field away, and Kent was not far behind. There was a sizable gap to everybody else that day. They both just put it together.
They did, and I was so glad to see that. You know, for Ryan Kent, who didn't quite run the whole series the way he wanted to, that was a huge confidence boost coming into the end of the year. Really helped him, I think, with his preparation for Tahoe, and I think he's got a lot to prove, because he knows he's capable. He knows he can get a top podium spot.
Oh, every single man in this field is aware that Ryan Kent is a major factor. He just hasn't put it together all season long, and he hasn't really put it together on the big stage of the World Championships yet.
Right.
When a guy like Killian is just constantly up there. And now you're seeing even a Ryan Woods, who struggled with obstacle proficiency early on, started getting very consistent up near the top of that field. I think people are really sleeping on that guy.
Right.
And, of course, Glenn.
Right.
Glenn, just because, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
No, he doesn't. And we talked about Palmerton and Hobie won that race, but Glenn took 4th in that race, which I think the year before, that was one of his real blow-up races.
He was like 49th the year before.
Right. So I think people might have kind of discounted him a little bit, didn't put a lot of stock into him heading into the race because of the year before, and he came out and had one of the strongest races I've ever seen him run. And he is in phenomenal shape right now. He was just on social media the other day posting he ran his fastest 5K ever. So We'll see if that translates into mountain climbing, but I'm excited to see Glenn run a nice race.
So we have a lot of men who are serious factors out there. And when we talk about the women's field, I think you and I are in agreement that we feel like there's 3 or 4 women that are going to kind of separate themselves from everybody else. Right. Lee McCarthy's one that I think this course actually very much suits her skill set. I've seen her run very well in mountains and really steep hill climbs before.
Right.
But can she also handle the speed of some of the flatter stuff as they come into the middle section of this course?
Right, and Rhea Coble moved to Colorado, so she's now living at altitude, and she's putting in a lot of miles and a lot of climbing. So I think we're going to be a little bit startled at how fast she may be, assuming she tapered properly. But I know she's put in a very large base building block heading into this series.
One thing we can be sure of, though, no Nicole Miracle to blow up the field in the first mile. This thing, the field may blow up in the first mile, but it's not going to be because she takes it out incredibly fast. I think you're going to see a nice cluster of women in that women's field, and then it'll start to open up. I think in the men's side, you'll see Robert Killian go out very hard and fast, and Ryan Woods go out very hard and fast, and the rest of the field struggle to hang on early on in those first few miles. Now, what you guys can see up on your screens is that tomorrow, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, that is 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can tune in live on the Spartan Facebook page and catch this entire incredible event. I know for a fact, because I was running all over this course, we have cameras all over it. The coverage is going to be good, really good. And, of course, really entertaining obstacle gauntlets throughout this course tomorrow.
Yeah, David, I'm super excited to kick off the series. I hope everyone else at home is too, and we'll see what shakes out.
I think we will. For everybody here at Spartan Race, and of course for Transition Productions, we're going to see you out there on the course tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7 a.m. Pacific Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the San Jose Super here from Diablo Grande. You do not want to miss this one.
What's so important about carrying these weights, struggling and cheering on your fellow comrades? It's so important because it gives people the belief in themselves. I am a warrior, I am strong, I am resilient. That warrior mythos, it exists in every human being. But many of these first world things need to be erased to get to that warrior ethos inside. Erased. The wind, the trees, the mud. Working together, running together, struggling together. It takes away all the noise.